if you're happy with that.
Let's do it.
All right, so welcome everyone to the September Ask an Expert webinar. Today we are joined with Altus, and we're going to be talking about the recent release of the Microsoft Project Online Retirement and what comes next. Next, please, Mark. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. If you could please remain on mute throughout the presentation unless you're asking a question, that would be amazing. However, if you did have a question, just feel free to use the raise your hand tool or the chat function. We've got a few Altus and Sensei people in here ready to answer your questions. However, there will be a Q&A held at the end of the session. So this session is being recorded and you'll get follow-up content that will be sent out shortly in the day. Next, please, Mark. So just a few things that you'll receive after this session. We've got two really good booklets. We've got the next generation of Microsoft PPM, as well as the new modern AI successor to Project Online, plus additional resources. So you expect that in the email. All right, next, please, Mark. So today we are joined with Phil, the Transition Success Lead at Sensei, and Mark, the Executive Director at Altus. So I'm going to hand over to Phil to introduce yourself a little bit to anyone who has not met you yet, Phil.
Perfect. Thanks, Ellie. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the session today. It's going to be an interesting one. We're here to talk about the Product Online End of Life. It's quite a significant milestone for many of us. It should be an insightful discussion, I think, especially with this latest release of news from Microsoft, changing things up a bit. So my name is Phil Eilenberg. I'm the transition lead at Sensei. I currently manage the portfolio of work to transition all of those clients who are on our legacy platforms onto a future-ready solution. Today I'll be sharing a bit about what we've learned so far in that process and provide some guidance on what we see next and where that's going. Personally, Product Online has been a major part of my career for the past 15 years or so. I've been an end user, a PM in the tool, updating my schedule and publishing and doing my updates, to then doing deployments and implementation and configuration for other clients, which has been great. So while this change marks a shift for everybody here, it definitely closes out that part of my career, but definitely an interesting time for our industry, and I'm excited to see where we're going to next and where we're heading with PPM tools. And I guess at the very least, for everybody here, we don't have to worry about bugging PMs to check in their projects for that much longer. So hopefully a win for everybody. But it is a real pleasure for me today to be presenting alongside Mark Soester. Mark has a pivotal role in shaping the tools that we've been using up until today and continues to shape them moving forward. So with that, Mark, over to you, give a bit of your background.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Hello, team. Lovely to meet you. My name is Mark Soester. I'm the Managing Director of Altus, our AI-driven PPM tool and the natural successor of Project Online. Well, Phil, just like you, my professional career is about dreaming of Project Server, Project Central, Project Online, and we'll talk a little bit about sort of the history and where it comes from. I think one of the main passions that is important for us as Altus is we want to ensure that our organizational customers, are achieving their business goals through the accomplishment of work. I've been deploying PPM solutions for what appears to be 160 years, and looking forward to that session right now, Phil.
You look great then, Mark. So we are going to provide a bit of a history of Product Online and kind of what this update means and what you should know, some of the information that Microsoft has and hasn't provided. We are going to focus on the migration path. We will present Altus as our focus for a destination solution, a lead to where we're going to go and the steps to progress towards that migration. There are a number of different groups joining us today, and you may use or consume Product Online in different ways. So I'll split out what that means for you specifically and go through the different scenarios, but we will focus on migration options, where to go from your current state and how to migrate forward. So we'll cover all that in quite a bit of detail, but we will leave some time for question and answer at the end as well. But with that, Mark, I understand there's a bit of an update recently on a piece of software.
Yeah, what is that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
why haven't they just continued the grand old lady? I thought when we started organizing that a year or two ago, I actually created sort of a bit of a history of what Project Server and project actually entails, and I thought I'll throw in a couple of pictures of maybe some of you who, well, either haven't been born when this came out, which is a real possibility, or may have not seen under how many different brands project actually allowed us to manage our projects and try to predict the future of those. I think it's also important to understand that MS Project itself really started back in 1987. And again, yes, that was the time before the internet. Can you believe it? So therefore, it only makes sense that after so many years of being a reliable schedule tool, that the grant lady is starting to retire. Well, interestingly enough, Project Server was originally actually bought by Microsoft from another company that had one big challenge. The challenge was to have an overarching view of all of my MS project files, right? And that's really where all of this started in terms of creating a server, which was the on-premises version, then of course creating online, and now moving into this literally this AI state. Now, when I think about it in terms of how did all of this start, I thought I'll just outline how we at Sensei actually came and were introduced to that and what we've always done in that space. Now, I'd like to showcase that purely because when we are talking about migrating project online into your future AI-driven PPM solution, you need to have the expertise of understanding where and how data flows. So we really started, Project Server started in 2002. I remember I was at the first Project Server conference in America, in Redmond, with the project team, where they introduced that. And over the years, we've enjoyed and endured many different versions of Project Server up until 2019. And that's also the current version that Microsoft has. They essentially created a snapshot in 2019, and that's it. Well, in 2015, then, of course, Project Online started to happen, changed our business quite dramatically from a very technical installation process to suddenly being in a position to simply consume it in your Microsoft 365 environment. And that was a big turning point for our users being able to very quickly onboard managing their projects in that environment. Now, of course, there was a stack of technology behind that, not only PWA. Do you remember that terminology? Project Web App. It used to be called Project Web Access. So, we utilized that. And of course, the combination at a later time, SharePoint came in as the collaboration platform. And this has really started to allow us to utilize desktop, web version, document management. So all of the artifacts and registers together. Sensei then, in its own right, started to develop what we call the Project Online Jumpstart because it gave us that ability. And most of our customers, they want to have a process, a repeatable process of industry standards, best practices. And that was really the first time that we packaged that up into a cohesive solution, which then, of course, as technology evolved, we evolved in terms of our offers as well. And we moved from the Jumpstart environment into the Empower PPM. At the time, we used the terminology empower to put power into the project. Why? Well, because Microsoft then started to introduce the Microsoft Power Platform. Now, the Power Platform for us is super important because that is the direction that Microsoft has been going down in terms of digitizing your business process, and within that business process, digitizing, of course, your project portfolio management. Well, in 2019, then Microsoft introduced Project for the Web and did announce that they will no longer continue to enhance and work on Project Online. And through the introduction of Project for the Web, AKA, which is now called Planner Premium, of course, moving into that Power Platform, it was just very natural for us then to also develop our project portfolio management solution that sits not just as a building block in your Microsoft environment, but actually sits as an umbrella, as a bubble around your Microsoft 365 environment, and allowing you to utilize all of your Microsoft 365 tools, from Teams to SharePoint to Word to PowerPoint to Excel. So really ensuring that data comes to you. You do not have to come and find data. So that's sort of a quick history of how 1987, yes, software was created in 1987. I know it's hard to believe, and that's how we came from there all the way over to this environment now. So yeah, just a quick history of how we wanted to, how the progression of Project Online came about. Yeah. So Phil, of course, reason why everybody is here now, they all heard the news, right?
That's right. They want to know what's next.
What are the news, Phil? What are the news? I don't know.
That's right.
Finally, so Microsoft attempted to retire Project Online since 2019 several times, but we're always quite hesitant releasing a date. Of course, behind the scenes, because we are deeply involved with Microsoft, we, heard the grapevine news and, oh, they announce it and then they don't announce it. Oh, they do till 31 and they don't. Finally, 2 weeks ago, Microsoft decided to put an end date on that. And this is then also for us the opportunity to ensure that a solution that hasn't been, and let's face that, a solution that hasn't been developed since 2019, we are in 2025. We want to make sure that project management is going to enjoy that revolution in our industry, moving from a web-based entry point into an AI-driven capability. So I think there are a couple of things that we want to outline in terms of the reason why we believe that that Altus is the natural successor, I'm going to say. Everything that we've done around Altus, aka Sensei IQ, was really to ensure that the transition is going to be seamless now, and overcoming our constraints that we have in terms of scheduling. So Project Online at the moment only enables you to work with Project Desktop. They have a web version that you can update, but generally project managers work with that, with that space shuttle, as I like to call that you need to, have astronaut training in order to fully appreciate that. However, Altus knew that a couple of years ago and therefore ensured that we are not only on par with our Project Online capability, but going beyond that. So what does that mean? On one hand, we do have templates, and I know we'll talk about integration in a second, on how to migrate and what to migrate. But even beyond that, if you are a customer in Project Online and your project managers are used to the MS Project Desktop and want to be able to utilize still your global resource pool, still want to be able to maybe use your timesheets and your timesheet actuals automatically updating your schedule. So all of this greatness that Project Online and Project Desktop has, we actually have that at Altus as well. So by adding, by incorporating that capability, enables our customers to continuously using Project Desktop. And I want to make that clear, Project Desktop is here to stay. Yeah, Microsoft made that very clear. And with Project Desktop, you do have the ability also now to utilize other Microsoft project tools, namely Planner Premium, which forms part of that license, and of course Planner Basic, which forms part of the Microsoft user license. So what Altus does is it enables you to utilize the schedule tool of your choice, depending on the type of projects, enabling you at the same time to manage these projects with your global resource pool so that you can manage your organizational constraints of work input versus ability for us to consume that work. And that's really what Altus has been working over the last, well, 18, 24 months towards that goal. So it was actually quite actual for us that and quite positive for us that Microsoft finally decide to, lift the hood on the date. With that being said, Phil, 12 months, really? It's not such a long time, really. When did we start? Tell me, when did we start communicating this actually to our customers?
A long time ago, and there's a little bit of irony in there that they give us such short planning notice before they take our planning tool away.
Literally, yes. Again, I just wanted to point that out. We want to make sure that we, on one hand, introduce familiar schedule tools and keep on using them, namely MS Project, Planner Premium, Planner Basic, but also the Jiras of the world, the DevOps of the world, because ultimately these are task management tools, and for us that means work input. The seamless integration with Microsoft ecosystem, we know Project Server just did not have anything of that. We developed that as part of Empower when it comes to Teams integration, but natively that wasn't a capability. Of course, now that becomes native as well. And continuously getting our global resource pool as well as our prioritization, demand management as Microsoft and Project Online has that is all, of course, seamlessly incorporated into Altus. Again, when it comes to sort of general consideration, I just wanted to point out that as part of your selecting criteria, there are two elements to that. One is the technical part, one is the business part. Now, in your instance, we want to make sure that you understand that all of the information, all of the data, all of the artifacts will, of course, remain in your own Microsoft environment. I always like to say Microsoft is the architect, Altus is the interior designer, and therefore, of course, having the ability to utilize everything Microsoft from a technology point of view made a lot of sense. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep on a little bit further, just so that I've mentioned it, the integration, and we'll share that with you. So when you think about Project Online and the replacement, you should be able not just to think about the technical capabilities of what you can do with scheduling, with finance management, with resource management, but also how you can render and manage that kind of information. And that's why I thought that native integration makes a lot of sense to showcase that. All right, so that's that's sort of the technical side of it. On the other hand, we want to make sure that we provide also a business benefit behind it. Again, we'll share that information, but again, I just wanted to point out that having the work project portfolio program resource information in Office 365, of course, gives you a great way to collaborate and work with your team. All right. Let's move on a little bit and talk about the goals. Now, Philly, our goal needs to be to migrate our current Project Online solution into a PPM solution. I called it Altus here, being a little bit biased, but that's really the goal for all of our team and for all of our participants here to do this before September 2026. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the type of users and also the way that we want to, the way that we are planning to migrate them. I'll hand that over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marcus, focused a lot around Altus as our destination solution, and that is with good reason. And we'll walk through kind of why that is and the steps towards getting to that point. To note, Sensei does provide some alternatives, and we can certainly discuss those with you. But really, our focus here is a transition from a legacy platform onto a future-ready state, and we are positioning Altus as that future-ready state. So on the call today, we do have a mix of Project Online users. We will have our first group of those who are using the Sensei Reporting Hub and one of the packages that Mark mentioned earlier. We are currently in a planning process with you. So you should be aware that we are quite well along the way with planning your transition. We have an earlier date to hit, even earlier than next September. We have to get off before April. So I'll run through a short timeline in a moment, but we have a quick window to do that migration. The only change here is that there's no longer that option to stay on Product Online for a little bit longer and use OData as your backup reporting solution. So we'll discuss some of the implications of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it, Mark.
And yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that the reason why we had to put the end date of the reporting hub into April 2026 is because Microsoft already started to decommission Project Online and the corresponding technologies, namely SharePoint. And the deprecation of that functionality, unfortunately, has already been scheduled for April by Microsoft, hence the reason why we had to do that, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so we were well aware that even without this end of life announcement, there was a consistent deprecation of a functionality over time. So it's probably better to rip the Band-Aid off and pull this end of life earlier. So our second group to talk about is if you have configured Product Online either yourselves or through other partners, we won't hold that against you. We are happy to help. If you have a configured Product Online environment, there are some details and some complications we need to work through with you. What data you need to migrate, what that migration process will look like. We are well underway with a whole bunch of these. We have some universities and financial sector clients who are doing very large scale migrations and kind of moving everything under the sun across. We have some medium tier clients who are looking to just do an MVP to get going and mitigate this risk of this upcoming time frame and get a base across and then to enhance and change that going forward. And then our smaller group who have just that requirement to get across. So we'll do a base install of Altus and get going using that. But if you do have any concerns or you would like to continue that planning process, please get in touch with us if you do have that configured version of Product Online. Our last group, as it might be a small bunch of you, who just use that very specific piece of functionality of publishing schedules into a central database. And as Mark mentioned, that's been the whole game, the whole way along, that you need to get a Microsoft Product schedule into a reportable database. And for up until today, or for now, that has been the only way to do it through Product Online. So it's very clear that Microsoft now relies on Altus to fill that functionality. They have noted the Product Server subscription edition. We just don't find that as a feasible alternative. So we are focusing as Altus to provide that back-end database, being the Dataverse, to provide that reporting database for your schedules.
It's an interesting one, Phil, because Microsoft did announce that, hey, if you want to move from Project Online, you can actually have a Azure version of Project Server. I just want to point out that Project Server version is a deprecated version of Project Online. And when they had their presentation to their partners, one of the questions was asked, well, that's great that we can do this in Project Online, but how long are you going to support that? Do you really want to go through the effort going into Project Online back into the server, only to do this again in 3-4 years time when they retire that part? So I'm not sure whether that's the most feasible version. I can imagine for some customers that are required to keep everything in closed containers, that would make sense. But I think as a general guidance, we want to move forward, not backwards.
Absolutely. Even discussing the OData reporting solution was going a step backwards. We don't want to go too far backwards. All right, if we move on to the last group that we're talking about. So if you are a current Altus user, well, congratulations, you got a whole bunch of the way there. Most of your data is in Altus. I will get you to jump to the next slide, Mark.
Sorry.
And so you have done that transition for the vast majority of your data so far. So the last little piece is if you are using Product Online to still publish your schedules and you pull that into Altus through the Product Online database, we will just transition that from your current state to use Altus for Project. we have a replacement functionality to allow you to publish directly from your Microsoft Product desktop file into the Altus database. So hopefully a very seamless and easy transition for you. The process we advise, it could be as easy as identifying that you are still using Product Online, exporting those files to a local version, and then syncing them up with Altus, and you should be good to go. There might be a scenario where you need to make some minor adjustments in your Altus environment, so we can discuss that with you and plan for that ahead.
Yeah, I think the only consideration there, Phil, so the reason why we developed this add-on was to mimic the experience for project managers that you have in Project Online. That, of course, has that very big advantage that you can do that manual transaction from Project Online into Altus with your own two hands, right? So you literally just have that MPP file, you open this up, and you then map your global resource pool of Altus with your file, you publish it, and Bob's your uncle.
That's it. Thank you. So Mark, next slide. And we're now talking about the ever decreasing window of time that we have to get this done in. So I'll quickly walk you through kind of the points that we've had up until today, and then some of the important milestones going forward. So we started in April of this year, and those of you who have a Reporting Hub subscription, as Sensei, we were no longer able to offer you a 12-month renewal subscription because there wasn't 12 months worth of life left. So we were very clear to point out that we had to progress with the migration plan. As of June of this year, we were pushing to have those large-scale migrations kicked off and underway. We have seen some of these migrations take 12 to 18 months, so we needed to make sure we had enough lead time to get through all activities. As we get to October, which I note now is in a couple of weeks, is coming up very quickly. We are likely to see some impacts on the scope that's available as part of these transitions. So we would like to get everything done, but it might just be we don't have enough time to do a full-scale migration or transition anymore from October onwards, and we may have to prioritize what that initial release looks like, and then to maybe upgrade it from there once we no longer have this this deadline and our data migration requirement. If we progress a lot further and we get to February next year, we'll be really stuck with just base level migrations. It might just be that, as we mentioned from our Altus clients, that you may have to grab an MSP file and publish it into a base Altus and start using Altus from that point there. We really need to focus on getting data migration complete before that 2nd of April date, when we're no longer able to export live data from Reporting Hub. So just to make it clear for everybody, if you are a Reporting Hub client, we are still working up to that 2nd of April date. We have to have data migrated off of Reporting Hub. So data migration must be complete by that date. For the other users who are still using Product Online, you need to be off by the 30th of September. And again, data migration must be complete by that date. There'll be no access, as far as we understand, no further access to your data after that 30th of September. So an interim point to note, if you, as a backup option, require an archive version of your Product Online data, that's something we could work with you and assist you with, and even potentially have a Reporting Hub instance in the interim to help extract and archive that. We could set up a SQL database for you to archive.
Is it me or is it?
Oh,
there you are. Sorry.
Yeah, our main. Oh, sorry, am I still
Hey,
here?
Phil, could you just go back about 30 seconds and
10
just repeat
seconds.
what you said?
Yeah,
10
sure.
seconds. Thank you.
Just cut out a little bit, no worries.
Yes.
So there is an interim option that we may have available. If you need to get a backup of your Project Online data, we could provide a Reporting Hub instance for you to get to an SQL state. So we can provide you an SQL database of that data, but it would be for archiving purposes only. Our main focus really is to have that data migration complete for Reporting Hub clients prior to April and for Product Online clients prior to September. We would hope that you would be live and up and running in your Altus environment well before that date.
Oh, interesting, because the migration options are very much based on what data you would want to have, right? When we think about those timelines, there are a lot of these considerations that we need to take. Well, one of these considerations, Phil, is, hey, as you said earlier, and that would be the test for me. I am the PMO manager of an organization that uses Project Online. I'm going to create a report, a portfolio report of everything, including the history. And then I'm going to give this to my boss. And I'm going to ask my boss, would you bet your career on that? If the answer to that question is yes, you may want to think about migrating all of this data, because it's not just a technical migration, it is actually institutional knowledge that we've built up over many years that will not only help us for analytical purposes, but thinking about that in terms of AI and in terms of elimination of administration, in terms of guiding customers through, that is actually data that is super vital. However, if you say the data, probably need to taste that with a grain of salt, then one of these options may well be that we have the information in the Reporting Hub SQL database as a backup, so that you can always use that for reporting and analytical purposes without needing to necessarily migrate that. And I think the big advantage that we have in the Reporting Hub is that, unlike the OData that Microsoft Project Online provides you with the Reporting Hub, we also have the ability to capture all of your register information, risks, issues, financials, change requests, lessons learned, all of these wonderful things. So I think it's definitely worth considering that as an alternative, right? As an archived database.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, spinning this a little bit further, Phil, I think it's important that we know that this is not just a data migration, right? It is actually digitizing business processes. So if you utilize Project Online, you should really inhale what you do. You may have a workflow that requires a certain approval. You may have documents in a document library that you want to migrate over. So these are all of the considerations that I would generally balance against the effort that it takes to migrate. If the effort of migration outweighs the benefit, well, then the archiving solution may actually be a very good one. And Phil, I think it's also important to say that when we talked about those timelines, don't panic too much, because there is, of course, the possibility to just start with the in-flight projects and then at a later stage start to migrate historical data that will not impact your go-live date as well. So there's definitely these kinds of considerations that I would think about.
Yeah, and I think our golden state would be that it's information in Dataverse, because it's accessible then by AI. If you had it in SQL, perhaps you could still utilize that.
Yes,
but really,
you can.
to have all your data and live and updated and as correct as possible in Dataverse, to have it connected to Copilot would be a huge advantage.
Absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I see this right now. The AI-driven journey that we are going under Altus, we literally, I'm not over-exaggerating here, we literally, with a push of a button, can automate the project status update. Do you know what kind of time saver this is? Project managers generally require, well, I'm going to say between 4 hours and 4 days to create a project status update, a humongous amount of administration. Through AI, we literally have the ability to interrogate all of your current project information, including historical data, and automate these administrative paths. So that vision of elimination of administration has become almost a reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can move on to the different styles of transition.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit here about the different options you may see and how we can assist you with where you might sit within these groups. But I think we've both been discussing the active projects should be your primary focus. You must get the active or current projects that are being managed across as quickly as possible, so that we avoid this scenario where you have a blackout of a PPM tool. You haven't migrated off of Product Online prior to that end date, and you haven't gone live with Altus just yet. So there might be that interim period where you just don't have reporting available. So certainly our goal is for active projects. But perhaps Mark, you could tell us about what a full historical data migration might look like.
Absolutely. So as you quite rightly pointed out, this active project migration is really the ability for the end user to migrate that information in an intuitive fashion. Again, I don't believe that anyone else actually offers that capability. That will make the disruption of migration minimal, which is good. The full historical migration is actually similar to what we've already spoken about, Phil, where we look at the data in the context of analytical capability, but we may want to rethink how we incorporate workflows. We may want to rethink how we incorporate integration with other line of business systems, which I know we have lots of customers that do that. So the difference between the full historical migration versus a custom migration is that in the full historical migration, we take your Project Online data and we literally migrate everything into what we call the dataverse, so that storage in your in a Microsoft 365 environment that allows you to work with data. So that's that full data migration. Thanks to the reporting hub, that migration is actually quite straightforward. Still complex in its own right to map data. And look, let's face it, Phil, we know this template that has been used in Project Online for a gazillion years. Now moving that into a new environment like Altus gives us, of course, also the opportunity to clean up some of the data, some of the histories that we may needed in the past. We don't need that here anymore. So there needs to be a little bit of data mapping, but really the idea is to benefit from the institutional knowledge we have gathered over the last years that will be an enabler for us fully automating and autonomously managing those projects through that AI-driven capability. Well, and then the last option is really an option for organizations that have Project Online fully embedded into their organization as a core pillar. And when I say as a core pillar, I talk about approval process automation, resource request approval. So any kind of workflow automation, we actually can't utilize the Project Online workflow anymore because that was based on old SharePoint technology. And obviously this can only be viewed in a museum these days. We then have to, of course, migrate that capability over into Microsoft Power Automate, for example, and that needs to actually be recreated. There is no smart tool that says push button and magic appears in here. So that's that custom part where the Sensei team sits down with you and says, okay, what works, what needs to change, what kind of integration do you need, what kind of workflows do you need, and that would then be that third option where we import or where we migrate all of historical data and of course provide that new way forward with the automation. So these are really those three core principles that we use, these best practices that we use, but of course every organization is slightly different. So we use those as the core of our migration, and on top of that, then of course deal with your organizational specific requirements on an individual basis. Yeah, so these are the three areas. The big question, Phil, of course, is which one to choose.
Which one to choose?
Yeah, well,
And
on
of
one
course-
hand, I would say, you know, how much effort is involved to migrate, and does that effort balance the benefit? And that really has to be done every organization needs to do that themselves and need to inhale that themselves. And of course, we are more than happy to guide you through that.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right that how many times have you heard that we don't even know what that field does anymore? It doesn't get used. So there is no point in migrating that old data or that stale data anymore, or stale configuration. We have a unique opportunity to uplift and then potentially refresh as well.
The number one question you should ask your staff member is, hey, why are you doing that? If the answer to that question is because we've always done it, then that's a wonderful opportunity for you to dive into the workflow and say, do I really need that? Right? Yeah. Okay.
All right. So if that's our migrations, then what's next? How does that work?
Yeah, so look, I think for us in terms of, so these are the different options that we, from a foundational perspective, provide from an Altus as well as from a Sensei point of view. I think in order for us to determine, or in order for you to determine which path you go, I just wanted to sort of outline these next steps. I know it's a very busy screen. I'm sorry. I just threw them together just to outline conceptually what we are talking about here. So when you look at that migration part, obviously it all remains in your tenant. I want to repoint that out. That means if you have any security concerns, as long as you use Microsoft 365, you'll be fine. Why? Because Microsoft is the architect, and who are we? We are the interior designers, right? So right now you have actually a project online environment in your Microsoft 365 environment for those Sensei customers who have the reporting hub managed by us. Of course, we have that here. We have then the ability to utilize that information and moving the data into Dataverse. The Power Platform provides us actually that ability. That's why we love the Power Platform so much. And from there on in, you would then, of course, use a combination, would use the Microsoft Power Platform. So Altus as the application is technically speaking a Microsoft Power application, but of course we use then all of the other wonderful capabilities that Microsoft provides us with in terms of Power BI and in terms of Power Automate. Oh, sorry, I should say Power Automate. I have to change that. At the same time, as we already outlined here, the migration of your, if you have a SharePoint site in your environment, then of course we would want to bring that into a modern Teams environment, which we would do it here as well. And as Phil already outlined, your schedule, you don't have to throw away. You can actually continuously using that. Maybe I'll just quickly show the look and feel of Project Desktop so that you can see when I say we mimic the capability, what that actually means. Let me just quickly open this up. Oh, sorry, it's the wrong screen. Of course it is. And as you can see, I have here nothing else but, you know, a schedule, a download. Sorry, my dog. Bucky, sorry. I downloaded the schedule, and then all I did is I connected it to Altus. What that now means is I can actually build, I can build my team. I should have done that earlier. Oh, great. Of course. I can build my team from enterprise. Let me just quickly close that. Yes.
Always in a demo, Mark.
Oh my God. Honestly, the funny thing is I've been presenting this. Oh, unable to connect. I'm sorry, I have to turn it off. Oh, great showcase effect. It worked 50,000 times. I'll come back to that, and hopefully I have the ability to show that at the end. What I wanted to outline here, okay, I do have a plan B, of course. Let me just
perhaps while you're doing that, Mark, your step number one here in our migration process roadmap is the discovery assessment. So we are really pushing to just as step one to get going, to get in touch and to discuss with us what your migration might look like, and for us to even run some initial and preliminary workshops with you to get an understanding of what your current environment looks like and which migration path might work for you. We are very aware of procurement processes at this point and have been jumping through hoops for the last 12 to 18 months. So we're not looking to go around them, but certainly we understand the time frame that takes. So to minimize the risk I was discussing earlier, we really are urging to get going and to get in touch with us to start those preliminary workshops to get a base level understanding of what might be required for your process, and then we can certainly align to your procurement steps as needed.
Yeah, like as one of my mentors used to say, Phil, 9 women don't produce a baby in 1 month. So there's a certain amount of duration that we need in order to do that migration, right? We can't do that from one day to the next. That's important. And so ta-da! So it does actually work. Sorry, I just had to restart it. So again, I just wanted to outline when we say that the transition from Project Online into Altus is a very natural one, especially for those project managers who use MS Project. We will provide you, of course, with the ability to connect to Altus, just like you did in Project Online, and we then have, of course, mimicked the same capability. So here you can see, just like Project Online, we have our global resource pool where you can have either named resources or only generic resources. The big advantage, of course, they are all centrally managed. That means I can provide you with a utilization report and a resource report, and the rates in that resources are also managed centrally. That means when I have a product manager and I have a particular rate, it will automatically adopt that rate. So once you've done that, you then have the ability to just simply publish the schedule. And again, the very first time when you publish, depending on the size, it may take about 20 seconds or something like that. But then every subsequent migration or any subsequent publish is still there. Now, Phil, the difference here between my publish and the publish in Project Online, we don't have check-in, check-out.
Oh, really? Well, a wise man once said that have a crystal ball, you have to use a Microsoft project schedule. Do you think that's still true, Mark?
Well, I have still not met that crystal ball that tells me the future. If I do, Phil, you'll be the first one to know, I promise.
Okay, good to know.
Look, and one last thing, again, for those of you who do have timesheets, again, I don't have any timesheet information in here, but if you have timesheets here, you will see them and you have the ability then to automatically update your actuals against those parts. So again, mimicking that project to Project Online, project to Altus part. So yeah, just wanted to share that. Okay. Well, look, from my point of view, Phil, this is really all I've got to say about that. As far as Gum used to say. Why don't we open up for, well, some questions? We've been talking backwards and forwards for quite some time, and I hope that one of those 123 users, can you believe it, 123 participants have some questions. So please, I'll open it up, and I'm happy to showcase as well if you want to see a little bit more. Now, while you think about your questions, so the brochure that we will send will also outline sort of a Q&A section that will allow you to see, hey, this is how it looks in Project Online. This is how it looks in Altus. This is how it looks in Project Online. This is how it looks in Project in Altus. So I just wanted to make sure that part of our collateral will include that as well. Any questions? Still figuring out the MS Project professional connection with Altus. Would appreciate guidance here, of course. So seeing the way that we do this, and again, I'm going to just outline that here. Our amazing Altus team has developed an MS Project technically add-in. Now, that was the only way that we were able to do that because that was the technology at the time when MS Project came about. So you deploy this add-in as part of your desktop deployment, and then you will see this link here. And what that link does is it will allow you then to connect to a so-called Altus environment. Now, you may have multiple Altus environments. You may have a test environment, a dev environment, a production environment, and you can then, of course, determine which kind of environment you'd like to connect to. the project schedule will recognize and keep on recognizing that connection. You never have to do that again if you don't want to. And once it has connected to the Altus project, everything else will happen from here. So that means, of course, MS Project through the connection now knows that it needs to go to the Altus Global Resource Pool instead of the Project Online Global Resource Pool, hence the reason why you can do that. And as well as ultimately with the timesheets, we utilize the Altus timesheet capability, very similar to Project Online. You submit that, approves it, and then it moves it into the schedule. And just like you had to do in MS Project and Project Online as well, you have the ability to manage your schedule. You do not have to publish it. You just simply save it and up until such time where you then are in a position to wanting to communicate that to the rest of your team. And that's when you publish it. So that's how that works. But Tanu, I'm happy to to dive a little bit deeper in there if you have some technical questions. From our point of view, we just
Thanks, Mark. I think we are just trying to figure out how to get that plugin. Sorry, I'm Tanu.
Talk to Phil. Tanu, talk to Phil.
I'm just representing the Aged Care Quality Commission. We are using Altus here, and that's the area I was trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Hi, Philip.
Good to see
Phil
you
will
again,
be able to point you there, Tanu. It is on our
likewise.
it is on our hub. So when you have access to the Altus hub, then you can download it there. But Phil, if you would mind just letting Tanu know, that would be awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay, Sarah, what happens to enterprise custom fields and formulas created in Project Online, Project Center and related with the Project Desktop schedule? Awesome question, Sarah. Really good question. So we've been tormenting us saying, so first of all, of course, you can have task level custom fields in Altus, just like you can have them in Project Online, and you can have as many as you like. What Project Online does right now, it also then maps these custom fields to the desktop client. We decided not to do that, at least at that stage, at that point in time. However, what actually happens, so when I publish this particular project, what technically happens, let me just show you. It will then, this is Altus, by the way, and at the moment I am in a project. And within that project, you can see this is essentially the schedule that we have just published through the MS Project Desktop. So if you have any custom fields in that, you can actually edit the custom fields directly in your Altus environment. Now, if there is a need to map that into Project Desktop, then please let us know, give us that feedback, and we put it on our backlog. At that point in time, we didn't do that simply because we know task level custom fields are hard to maintain. And in our experience, there are only really 1 or 2 custom fields that we generally have. One is sort of a reportable one. Maybe one has a formula with some visualizations that you can do, but that's about it. Apart from that, all of the other custom fields in MS Project, of course, still work as they are used to. Neil.
Yeah, Neil Cox here at the Lottery Corporation. Give me your sort of summary of how the functionality of the Altus timesheet system compares to the functionality of the Project Online or Project Server timesheet system.
It's in par. So it has the same capability with one part that it doesn't do right now. So in Project Online, you have the ability to enter your actuals. Let me just show you this, just so that you see what that looks like, right? So I'm just going to go into my timesheet. Actually, sorry, I'm going to go into my work. In my work, I go into my timesheet so that you can see that. So this is the user experience from a timesheet perspective. So of course, you have the ability to add non-project time and project-related time, just like Project Online. The only difference, we do not, at this point in time, allow you to update remaining work. So what you can do is update the actual work, and we actually added a capability where you can add a comment per day. That was a common requirements that we always had, so we thought we built it in here. And on our backlog right now is the idea of potentially providing that remaining work field so that the user can do that. But apart from that, it's the same.
All recalls and all that sort of stuff handled?
Yeah, recalls. Yep. Approvals, self-approvals if you are your own timesheet manager, and locking the period, meaning once the period is locked, not even God can change it anymore.
And I joined late, sorry, you might have already answered this, but can you have the two-stage approvals?
You can, yeah, so you can enhance that, and that's the beauty about the Power Platform. So you would utilize Power Automate to literally mimic the business process you are after. So it's not like Project Online where we said you had to do this before you could do that. So meaning that the technology provides you the business process. We do it the other way around. We say, what's your business process? And we digitize that.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Can I just add, sorry, Neil, if you're in the session later today, we're catching up. I'm doing a demo with TLC already today. So if you're in the same session, I'll take you through a whole lot more and how resourcing and all that works as well. So
yeah, thanks. Yeah, resourcing was my other question, Pete. So that'd be good. Thanks.
Kylie gave me a heads up, so I'm going to cover all that today, mate.
Thanks. Cheers.
Awesome. Steve, great question. What is the oldest version of MS Project Desktop that the Altus plugin is compatible with? Well, it has to be a Office 365 desktop. So it's the Microsoft desktop version that you download, that you use in your Office 365 environment. So you couldn't use it with MS Project 2016, 12, 10, 6, 5, 2, 99. It will have to be, of course, the Microsoft version that is in your Microsoft 365 environment. What else? Will the organizer functionality, exchange report calendar fields between projects to the global resource still be? Yeah, of course. So the way that you manage your global resource pool in Altus, let me just quickly go and showcase that. I'm just going to discard that here. So in those resources, this is now my resource pool where I maintain my generic and my named resources. I'm just going to go into a named resource. And what I have is, of course, the ability to associate roles, skill set. I have the ability to determine who's the line manager, who's a timesheet manager. I can determine when the timesheet should start. I can determine my global calendar. And of course, with that global calendar, you have a whole bunch of different calendars, just like you have them in Project Online as well. And then, of course, we have our rates. So these are these effective cost rates. We have one difference here. Project and Project Online only manages cost because they consider projects are internal costs. We also consider sell rates, meaning revenue. So if you create a project with revenue, then you have the sell rates, allowing you to then ultimately get your gross profit for the project. So that's how that works. And yes, the capacity of the resource will move into project so that you don't have the ability, well, that you don't over allocate them, of course. Yeah, so that's how that works. All right, I'm just going through some of those, and we have lots, of course we do. Is there any work on helping the management of resources across portfolios of projects, comparing with, say, Deltec? Okay, yeah, okay. Yes, is the short answer. I can't cover, unfortunately, I can't cover it all. What I can tell you is that our resource management ability enables you to, as a project manager, to request a resource, no matter what schedule tool there is, by the way. Project Planner, Jira, it doesn't matter. You request that. The resource manager then has the ability to map it to a named resource, sends it back. Not only does the project manager then know who is committed to that project, we also automatically cost it in the financials so that your costing is accurately reflecting against your project. And this is a nice example here where I literally now, I'm just going to go a little bit back here. Sorry, it's just demo data. But as you can see, I can see, oh, look, there's an over allocation for my resource, and that over allocation happens because of all of these projects. We can even go as far as balancing the work directly in the heat map again. That will automatically update the schedule, will automatically update the project. We want not to schedule the project, sorry. I saw your eyes, Bill, at the project, so that we always retain, well, the truth of Earth. Well, we only have 24 hours. We don't live on Mars. We don't have 24.5 hours. So we do follow the rules of the Earth. So I like to say that. If you are interested in the resource management capability, please reach out. What you will see will be mind-blowing in my view, because I know Project Online and Project Server resource management was always based on the schedule. And let's face it, unless you are a schedule guru, it makes it very difficult. Here we actually have the concept of a resource plan that acts as an umbrella across all of your projects. So I hope that that was as quick as it got, Phil. Sorry, that's as quick as it gets.
We do only have 1 minute left, so I really appreciate everybody joining us today. I think we'll do a quick wrap up. If I can reinstate, please, if you do have any other questions or do want further information, please get in touch with us. Sensei can help you through with those initial workshops to at least get an understanding of what migration might look like for you. If you are a Project Online user, we have focused today on Altus for good reason. We see that functional parity between the two tools is seamless, so it seems like the right roadmap for you. There are some other options, but we do see that as our future state moving forward. So thanks very much, Mark. Back to you, Ellie.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you, Phil.
perfect. Thanks, Phil and Mark. So just a few things before we all head off. So we do have an upcoming webinar, October 8th, about AI-driven schedule, replace the need for traditional schedule tools. In terms of what you'll receive after, if you missed the start, you will receive the recording, the slides, as well as additional resources. So keep a lookout for that one. There's also all the details there below if you'd like to get in contact with us, as well as if you'd like more questions answered, just scan the QR code and we'll get one of our experts to respond to you. So that wraps it all up today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye.